You're listening to Hockey Talk on the Rock
All right, stop.
with Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Jump right on in. Back for episode 16 of Hockey Talk on the Rock.
Woohoo!
It's been an exciting week, a positive week for Canucks fans, and I'm kind of weighing it again. So what do you got?
Oh yeah, I got some notes. I first see that you got some new additions behind you and on you.
So
I gotta say, I'm surprised you got the Space Coyote.
well, multiple factors played into it. Was mainly I didn't think I was ever gonna get an Arizona one, and then when that one came out, I was like, well, this might be the only one I might be willing to finally get. And it kind of grew on me. But I guess the primary reason was I really liked the Kings purple retro reverse.
Yeah.
And because I already have that one, as you know,
Yep.
wait, I was like, I can't justify. I don't really like LA, so I was
Yeah.
like, ooh. So it was like a reason to have a purple jersey to make up for it, I guess.
There you go.
And then you obviously picked up on my hints from last week. I said I wanted to wear a new one. I couldn't. do
Yeah.
it. They were in the middle of getting spanked by the Canadians, so.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We could follow that up and many other things. But if you want to, they did finish up playing Montreal on last Saturday after we talked on the Friday. We were hoping all for the victory, and it didn't
Didn't
happen.
show then.
No.
But I mean, it was more positive last week, aside from the game against Montreal. And I think it was like almost in increments it got better, though obviously the first game was the biggest score. But that game you really saw the kind of bottom six players make their mark, and PD and the big boys were still kind of absent. And it wasn't until that second game on Wednesday against Ottawa that they really woke up. And then I thought probably yesterday was their best game, because I think Ottawa was the hungriest that they were out of that series. But it's hard to, take away too much from it, because, I think that we have established they're better than Ottawa, which we knew going in. It's great they won all three games. You can only win the games that you're given to play. But this Saturday will be a big test for them to see if they're really playing better.
It will be a big test. A big thing that was telling, even though everyone knows Ottawa's going to be last, and it's not a surprise, it was kind of more of how much they dominated them. Like 3 goals in 3 games. Demko played really well.
Yep. I thought Holtby was good last night too, but Demko really established himself, I think, those 2 games he played. And he should get the start Saturday based on how he played, I think.
Yeah, built up both the goalies' confidences, I'm sure, moving forward at a time where it was obvious everybody needed something. So, for the record, Becca's PD retro reverse showed up on Wednesday and brought the good luck.
I know, I like that. That's awesome.
It's good to see PD bounce back.
Yeah, he looked good. Like these last 2 games, he had numerous chances where he looked like the old PD. Like he was shooting to score, he was creating, he was doing great things. So it's all really good signs. But again, the Canucks are a team that can score goals, and when you give them time and space, they're gonna score. Last night, at least 2 of the goals against Ottawa were directly a result of the fact that no one took the man in front of the net.
Right.
I don't know how many other teams are going to give you those opportunities to that degree, but definitely a good confidence booster.
Well, and we talked about before the season starting Ottawa's defense beyond Thomas Chabot, and it's just like.
And it looked just as bad as we were anticipating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually feel quite bad for Ottawa because of this North Division and the fact that, normally speaking, they get to play Detroit, they get to play Chicago, which are teams that they should compete with, that they could maybe beat. Buffalo, even New York doesn't look that good this year. Teams that would be kind of on their level to some degree, but it really feels like they're just going to keep getting beaten down. And I do feel for that franchise a little bit. Obviously, their management is awful. Not the GM, but the ownership. And yeah. Anyway, so I feel a bit sorry for Ottawa, I guess, but I'm happy the Canucks didn't lose. I'm happy the way they won. Yeah. But the other thing for the Canucks too that's been a really big high point for this season, and we talked about him a little bit last time, but I'm going to bring him up again because he was brought up numerous times during the broadcast last night, but Nils Hoglander just looks like such a player, and in ways that I think everyone is surprised. Like, he's so good defensively. It will be interesting to see how long it takes for him to be a penalty killer, because I can completely see him as a PKer right now. And just his drive and his work ethic is so contagious. It's awesome to watch. Just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it last night, and they talked about it on the radio a lot before last night, being relentless being the word they kept using.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah, to switch from Hoglander, it's moving on to say that, like, when you see someone working that hard to earn that job, it makes you think if somebody like Shotgun Jake
Yep.
would look at that and be like, that's what I got to do, or respond in a way, because like that's my, like, I should be in the top 6. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's taken Virtanen's spot essentially right now, right?
yeah.
And again, it looks like him now and Gaudette are going to be battling kind of to stay in the lineup on a wing position. I don't mind Gaudette playing the wing because, again, I think he should bring some scoring. And maybe if he can't fit as that third line center, it's a smarter move down the road. And because Brandon Sutter has been playing really well, it also helps. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens with Jake because, you know, this is his last chance. And we'll get into this next part in a bit here. You don't want to trade an asset when they're low or when they're playing their worst. And I think right now Virtanen is as low as he can get. And you usually don't get much for someone in those positions. But, like, I don't know if he's going to rebound at this stage in Vancouver. Unless there's a significant injury to the top 6, I don't see him getting in to a spot, really.
No, I agree. And I was going to throw to you saying that next episode, come back to me with your best trade proposal that you think you could possibly pull off that another team would, because I have one for you, actually.
Okay.
I think, even though I think he has pretty well no value, right?
Okay.
Right now, like you said, trading at the lows. I would say making a deal with Buffalo to try and do a swap for Casey Middlestat at this point.
Okay.
Make sense.
Yeah.
Only in the change of scenery type things, because it's not like either of them needs to move those guys.
No.
But Middlestat's only one draft from like later from Virtanen.
That's true.
He was 8th overall.
And he get bust as well.
And he hasn't lived up. Like, he had what was the season high I looked at? 12 goals, 25 points 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So if anything, Jake's, you know, a little more proven or whatever, but that's the type of thing I might be looking at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, before the season started, I wondered about Puljujärvi in Edmonton for Virtanen, which I don't think they'll do now because he's looked a lot better since coming back from Finland. But there are a few players kind of in that position, right, where you want to give them a change of scenery and see what they can do, kind of like the Elias Anderson trade in the summer, essentially. Yeah. But yeah, I'll think about it. I'll take a look through the league and see what I come up with for players in that position.
Yeah, just for fun, right?
Yeah. We did have a big trade in the NHL.
Trade.
And I feel like you and me are going to disagree on some points here, so it'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
But, Patrick Laine, Jack Roslovic went to Columbus for Pierre-Luc Dubois and a third, which was the trade, well, the Dubois for Laine part that we both agreed didn't make sense last week. And then it happened the next day, so I thought that was pretty funny. And I don't know, do you want to start off talking about who you think your
Yeah, I mean, I would. I also rather love the fact that it happened. Like the next day, we said it wouldn't happen, so we're awesome and super smart and know everything about hockey. That's why we do this thing. Um, I think, like in my winners and participant ribbon thing, I would give the winner to Columbus in this deal,
Okay.
and participant ribbon to Winnipeg,
Okay.
even though I do love the deal for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Um, ultimately that had to happen. Like, and apparently these two GMs knew that they could do this swap for months now.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time till we got to where we are. And I think Roslovic, if he's given the opportunity and based on like Columbus's need for center, I think he will do well there.
Yep.
So they essentially, I look at it like they got a third rounder for Roslovic, and then it was Dubois
For Laine.
on a swap.
Yep.
And so I think Laine is going to get 50 goals in Columbus. I don't know who's going to be passing the puck. Maybe it's Roslovic, right? But
He's destined for it, I think, and I think everyone knows that, right?
It probably hurt Winnipeg and the fans to trade him.
Yeah.
But I think having Shifley and Dubois as your 1-2 center punch for 5, maybe up to 10 years.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, and they, like you said, they needed it, and they traded for Stastny, and now he can slide into a pretty good third line center role for 1 year, and then next year they don't got to worry about it, right?
Because that line with Ehlers, Stastny, and Kopp for the last week has been so good.
Right.
And I don't know, like, you can't realistically expect that line to stay that hot, but it'll be interesting to see by next week or whenever it is that Dubois is done his quarantine, is if he slides into the third line center and they kind of wait until that second line shows some sign of slowing down and
Right.
moving up. Then I'll be fascinated with that. I agree with you. I think Columbus does win the trade. I think from a pure skill level, getting Laine for Columbus is absolutely stellar. Like, I think if you told the fans there, we're going to trade Dubois and we'll bring you back Laine plus something else, they'd be ecstatic. They've never had someone that skilled play in Columbus before. I mean, Rick Nash was really good for them, but he wasn't that level that Laine is.
I'd give him Panarin.
Okay, I forgot. I totally forgot about Panarin. But obviously, I think the kind of asterisk or whatever on this deal is if they can keep Laine happy in Columbus, because if he doesn't sign long term there, then I give the win to Winnipeg. But right now, I say Columbus wins. I think that it's a fascinating trade though, because if you think about the two things that kind of come up when you trade players the most is, well, yeah, I guess who gets the better player. But beyond that, if you're trading a center for a winger, you're usually going to say the person that gets the center wins. But then the factor of scoring in the NHL is so big, it is the hardest thing to do. And Laine is definitely a better goal scorer than Dubois. I don't think we can argue that. But it's like almost they even out in that way. So I find it really fascinating.
It's also a time will tell thing because they're both like, really young, and I think they're both trending upwards. Maybe not the same rate. I almost think Duval might be trending upwards a little more right now.
Yeah. But I do think too, like the kind of, sorry, cut you off.
That's all good.
But how he left Columbus was another factor that I give the win to Columbus, because they couldn't play him again. If they hadn't traded him on Saturday, they would have had to send him home. There's no way they could have dressed him again. And I think the fact that they got what they got for him at that point is also telling.
Yeah.
Because teams knew that they had to get rid of him, right?
Well, I mean, I've already joked like Laine is going to sign an offer sheet with Detroit in the summer. They're just going to lose him because superstars just seem to kind of want to walk away from Columbus or whatever.
Yeah, the thing with Laine, though, in Columbus is that I think he actually will be happy there, because I think his problem with Winnipeg was purely that he wanted to be the guy, and he wasn't. He was on the second line. He didn't want to be the secondary scoring. He wanted to be the person that needed to score, and he'll get that opportunity in Columbus. So I think that will be okay, and he won't really care about the city as much. and then the fact that he has the relationship with the GM there. I think that helps. Obviously, what we all want to watch is him and Torts, but I
Yeah.
think because Tortorella's in his last year as of his contract, if they don't mesh, I think that they'll choose Laine over Torts essentially.
Hmm.
But anyway, I thought it was, yeah, 3 players that didn't want to be where they were, and they just swapped them for each other with a draft pick.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna be fun to see how that plays out. And to transition, since we're talking trades, kind of on those lines, um, going on to a veteran GM stepping down this
Yeah.
week out of nowhere, apparently, with Jim Rutherford in Pittsburgh giving up his position as the general manager, and everyone was shocked. And from what I heard that other people were hearing was there have been several things that I can get into if you want, but you probably already heard them all. But the last straw, I guess, was like Rutherford had put in a lot of legwork into getting a Chris Letang trade done with one of his, 18 teams that he can go to because he has a modified no trade. But anyways, and he wanted to pull the trigger, and ownership was like pissed that he was doing that and basically kiboshed it. And I guess for him, maybe it was the final thing.
Yeah, and I mean, whoever takes that position, right, is going to be in a really awkward spot or not a great spot, because I think everyone can tell that Pittsburgh is on the decline, and like they're gonna probably be in a similar position to what Benning was in when he first came into Vancouver, where ownership isn't totally sold on doing a rebuild, and so they're gonna try and make that team as competitive as possible, but they don't have really any prospects, like grade A prospects at this stage, and their stars are getting old. So
I think you're right. It would be a difficult position to fill, but I think philosophically it would be easy because Letang and Malkin have 1 year left after this one.
Yeah.
And philosophically, you say Crosby's been our face the whole time. We keep him, but we at the deadline next year send off Letang, send off Malcolm, let them pick where they want to try to go, and we'll try to work a deal or whatever. And those two, even though they'll be whatever they said they'd be 35 and 34, or maybe a year younger than that, would still get the Penguins what they need, like you say, prospects and picks, because they've been shelving them out to other teams for like a decade, facing the cup kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's very similar, right, to Chicago's situation right now, except for the fact that Pittsburgh is still competitive. But we wonder how long they keep it up for, right? And you're right, they're in a good position in the sense that those contracts are ending. But yeah, it will be interesting to observe. And I wonder how long it takes them to find someone.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they've already had like since Wednesday or whatever, 20 different people all reach out, kind of thing. I heard Hextall the front runner.
Okay.
As a Flyer fan, it'd be weird and frustrating. But he did do an amazing job of restocking the cupboards of prospects and picks and stuff.
For Philly, that's true, yeah. Yeah. I guess kind of moving on from that, that was like the other big news of the week. But there's a few teams in the NHL right now that have stayed surprisingly hot, or maybe not surprisingly hot. The first one is Washington, without all their Russians. Still haven't lost a game in regulation, and they look really good. I kind of thought Washington might be a team that takes a step back this year. Again, obviously it's still early, but they look pretty good. And then the other team I wanted to point out was Montreal, because again, like, they just look so good. And I think it's surprising for me because I did expect them to be better, but I didn't expect them to look this dangerous. And
they have a deep roster.
They look very, very deep.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I heard it pointed out, like, oh, Yoel Armia goes out with a concussion one game, we'll slide Corey Perry in next game, and he'll get a big goal for him. Like, it's pretty insane. I have to give it to Bergevin after the questionable moves he made when he was a rookie. He's come a long way, and he's done a really good job, especially this year. And it's going to be fun on the Montreal Note to watch our hot takes of the Toffoli versus Bester in the goals category, because they're both off to the smoking hot.
Pretty close right now, I think. Yeah, might be
Yeah.
tied even.
I think they're tied at 6.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting to watch. And yeah, they're just a fun team to watch right now, which I don't think Montreal has been really for a while. And then the team they beat most recently, Calgary, can only seem to beat the Canucks.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because, you know, it seems like they only scouted the Canucks for their offseason moves, and now all their wins have come against Vancouver. And then the other Alberta team has also kind of fallen apart, or they can't score goals to the degree that they'd like. And very fascinating for me to watch what's going on with those two teams as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the Calgary thing, it's almost like there's so many Vancouver players that like playing them meant so much, you know, that was so much of an emotional thing. So they're kind of like, all right, we did it.
Yeah.
Beat our old team and we did it good. And then it was like they faced other teams, they didn't have that same intensity, you know. So
Yeah.
that's got to play a little bit of a factor, you think, because there was like 4 of them or whatever that went over for Vancouver.
Yeah, and I think because also it was their first 2 games of the season, I believe. Anyway, I think that there was, probably again a lot of money on the board for those guys and a lot of extra motivation to play those teams. And like, there's just a few things that have gone on with Calgary in the past couple days, like the whole Matthew Tkachuk thing with his freak out after Muzzin shot the puck at him at the end of the game. And like, it was like a flipped puck. Like, it wasn't like he took a slap shot at him or something. And then he just freaked out and like it extended onto the bench, right? And evidently what they're saying is he was mad because he didn't think his team had his back, essentially. Like, he was the only one in there. And then today I heard that they had a closed door meeting. So there's got to be some stuff going on in the room that isn't great. And yeah, we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, I mean, the Edmonton thing doesn't surprise me. We
No.
talked about that, I think, when we were predicting the division. But like, they came back with the same goalies, and even now they're without Mike Smith, so they have like pretty well a no-namer as the backup while they wait for some other no-namer to clear quarantine from Europe. And their defense, they lost Guckbaum, and like we saw Tyson Berry transition to Toronto last year, and it didn't really work out. And I didn't see it working out again this year.
See, I thought that like it would be like, I thought they would be bad defensively, but I thought they'd be able to score goals. And right now it just seems like they can't generate enough goals for what they make up. And I just find that very interesting for that team.
Yeah, two top heavy lines, I guess, right? And then
That's true.
because what they have 9 players on the roster making a total of $9 million. I heard today.
Yeah.
So like they're in such a cap crunch that there's so many like fillers.
And the thing too there that will be really interesting to watch as the year goes on is Nugent Hopkins, because his contract is up at the end of this year. And he'll probably be looking for somewhat of a raise, if not the same money. And I know that he likes playing in Edmonton, but it'll be very interesting to see if they let him walk or if he stays. I really like Nugent Hopkins. I always have. I have kind of a soft spot for him, so I'm kind of hoping that he leaves because I'd like to see him play somewhere not Edmonton. But it'll be interesting just with the core of that team because he's been around for a long time too.
Side note, my friend Wes and Ladysmith, his cousin is Ryan Nugent Hopkins.
Oh yeah, that's.
I predict they will screw it up and let him walk, and they will try to use all that money on upgrading the defense and goalie.
Yeah,
because they have, I think, what they say, 25 million or 30 million of cap space after this year because a bunch of their stuff's clearing.
Okay, so kind of similar to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with their defense, though, they have a number of young guys that in the next few years should help them out. right? They've got, I'm gonna forget all the guys they have now.
Yeah, I think Bouchard on defense. I know
Chard and Boquist, right? Who
Yeah.
both should be decent. They
And
should get
Broberg.
Buffon back.
No. Broberg's on Chicago, right?
Oh no, Boquist.
Boquist is on Chicago.
Oh, is it Broberg?
Broberg.
One of the two is in Edmonton.
Yeah. Not both of them though, right?
Yeah, not both of them. Yeah. Anyway, like they should have some help coming on the back end, but they definitely need a goaltender. So, yeah. And yeah, the other kind of, I guess, trade news in the NHL that could be relevant to Vancouver, but this is, I think, kind of the equivalent of what Eric Cernak was in the off season now, is Vince Dunn is on the trade block in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, I heard they healthy scratched them and they're looking for a first rounder or something.
Yeah, and obviously people in Vancouver found that quite interesting because, their defense is pretty light right now, or they've been going through a lot of injuries, and someone like Vince Dunn would help the team. He hasn't been playing great this year, which is kind of a factor into it as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he goes. It sounds like he will go, because I think if they healthy scratch him, it's pretty much imminent, right? But
Okay.
yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I thought that with Goss's bear, and he got a healthy scratch for the majority of last season. He's still trying to make his comeback.
What about a Vertan and Gostisbehere trade?
No, Vancouver can afford it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I forgot about his cap hit, because I could see Vertanen being a really good flyer, I guess.
No, I mean, along with my prediction with Casey Middlestad being a good swap, I was kind of thinking maybe Philly could make a deal with them for like, only because I know they wouldn't do it, but because I don't like Michael Raffle.
Right.
And that's the only other type of player that they could maybe look at, because he's on his last of his deal and he's kind of that type of role player on the wing that they could use.
Yeah.
And the Flyers could then take a flyer, no pun intended, on Vertanen.
Yeah.
But I don't think Philly would do it, because they know what they're getting in Raffle.
Or you don't know with.
And they don't know what they're getting with Vertanen. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. My kind of last bit of Canucks news too, because I forgot I was gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Was the whole Jordy Ben situation, which is that he's looked really good playing with Hughes in the last few games here, the first games that he's played this season. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, but there's joke to be made about how he switched his number to 8, and now he's playing a pretty good defensive game. He looks a bit like Chris Tanev, which is nice. I don't think he's going to keep it up, but I would be very happy for him if he had a bounce back season with the Canucks, because he is local and he always wanted to play for Vancouver, so I just think it's a nice story. And the Canucks are so desperate right now for players to fill that void defensively, that if he can, somewhat maintain his play, I think it would be really good for Vancouver.
Yeah, it'd be nice to not deploy Travis Hamnick as much as they had so far, because I think he was still shaking off the rust before he got hurt, because he didn't look great.
No, he didn't. And
so he might be better suited for that third pair.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the young guys I thought also have looked good, like at kind of what you would expect, maybe a bit better than what I expected. I thought Chatfield again last night played okay. Nua Levy got his first goal this week, which was nice to see, and then got healthy scratched. But again, I think they're playing solid. So
yeah, I think Chatfield's been a bit better. I think Nua Levy just seems a little bit soft. I don't know.
I don't think he knows what his identity as a player is yet. And maybe part of that is, again, because what we talked about last week, where he lost a lot of his speed. And I think ideally he would have been more of a point producing, offensive defenseman. But now he's kind of trying to switch into that more defensive role. And
I wonder how much of his injuries have played that physically and mentally too, right?
Yeah.
Not wanting to play like he used to try and not get hurt again or whatever.
Yeah, definitely a confidence thing or a mental thing. So it'll be be interesting to watch how that situation plays out. But overall, again, this week looked way better than last week, but try not to be too overreactive to it.
Yeah. See how the Winnipeg game goes.
And I did find it kind of funny that, half of the freak out about the Canucks from their fans in the first week or two was about Quinn Hughes' play. And I will admit he has not looked great defensively. And in fact, sometimes he's looked awful defensively. But it is funny how he's leading the league in defensive scoring after everyone freaked out about how poorly he was playing. So again, early, the Canucks have played a lot more games than a lot of other teams, so it's kind of inflated, but it is nice to see him putting up points.
Yeah, I think he's like a -5, but
yeah, no, that's the problem.
No, I agree. I agree with you, but I think it's like I said before, it's the silly season. The first month of the hockey season is just so you can't base the whole season on that because it's always just so off base. Like we're not going to see Anze Kopitar being the fourth leading scorer at the end of the year, kind of thing.
No, I mean he's off to a ridiculous start. He has like 11 assists or something, and yeah. Sorry, I just got an email.
That's okay.
But I think a big part of it for him too, like Hughes in particular, was again losing Tanev because it was his regular partner for his rookie season. Is just getting used to playing with a different player, and I think he'll be better defensively eventually. I mean, he can't be worse. Like it can't be. But yeah. Anyway.
Haven't commented, so nice Whalers jersey.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were gonna go with that one, but nice choice.
I really liked this one. I've always wanted a Whalers jersey, and I wanted one with the whale.
Yeah.
So when they came out with this one, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it. It doesn't have a number on it. I might send it away to get, customized. But
I got Francis on mine. Who would you get?
I think I would go with a current player right now. So I'd probably go with either Aho or Svechnikov.
Oh yeah.
Be pretty boring, but one of the big two.
Yeah, I mean, what, you don't like Teravainen?
Teravainen's okay, but I think Svechnikov has the highest ceiling. I like Aho because his name is literally Aho. And so for me, that's just too funny. So those are the two, that I'd probably consider. I don't know if there's anyone else there.
There you go. All right, well, that's all I got for tonight. What about you?
I think that's everything I have. Yeah.
Well, we'll have an exciting week to talk about next week because we'll have the Winnipeg game under the belt and a couple Maple Leafs games to talk about as well.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So, yeah, I think we'll have a better idea of who the Canucks really are by this time next week. We want to do it again next Friday.
Yeah, and that Winnipeg game, man, that's going to be big.
It will be big. Demko and net?
I think they got to go Demko and net after his last two starts. And yeah, I think for the Canucks' confidence, because in the last few years they've just looked terrible against Winnipeg, they need to win this game. If they lose this game, they're probably going to lose every game to Winnipeg this season. I'm prepared to say. So I think they need to come out and they need to, get in front of it, basically, buck that trend and just play a dominant game. This will also be a short-handed Winnipeg team because they're not going to have Dubois yet. So this is probably the nicest you're going to see that lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I think because Winnipeg, since their old franchise, has always had Vancouver's number, I'm going to call that since it's only a one-game series, Winnipeg will take this one.
Okay.
But then Vancouver will take that rage into Toronto. Show them what's up.
I'd be happy if they beat Toronto. I can't lie, but I'd also be very happy if they beat Winnipeg right now. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll say they beat Winnipeg because I'm prepared to be wrong.
Name the game.
Yeah, maybe they do. It'll be nice.
All right. Well, until episode 17, I guess we'll do it all again.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Hockey Talk on the Rock. Thanks for listening.
Peace out.